Whether you operate one forklift or thousands, one location or hundreds, the new My Toyota customer portal can help you optimize your operation and material handling equipment. This one-stop, free-to-use platform is designed to help you take control of your information and make smarter decisions, all at the touch of a button. Register and access your data today at my.toyotaforklift.com. That's my.toyotaforklift.com.
Hi, this is Patrick O'Rahilly from FactoryFix, and you're listening to the New Warehouse Podcast. Today's safety tip of the day is please report any injuries, even something as inconsequential as a minor burn or small cut. Even these small injuries are important in identifying faulty equipment or any issues with the company's process. Thanks and stay safe, everyone.
How do you create warehouse superheroes? The answer is simple. With visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus. With record demand and labor shortages, warehouses need more effective workers and lightning fast onboarding. Visual voice scan solutions from ProCensus enable warehouse workers to achieve superhero performance with up to 20% improved productivity and up to 99% accuracy. Hands-free barcode scanners from ProGlove paired with wearable mobile computers is just the beginning. Improved mobile interfaces with reduced keystrokes, easy-to-read screens, custom keyboards, voice-enabled interface, and more can be realized with ease on the leading WMS platforms. Sound too good to be true? Let us show you with our one-of-a-kind virtual demo. Visit ProCensus.com to get started today. Again, that's ProCensus.com to get started. With e-commerce off the charts, many small and growing warehouses are asking, how can I get ahead when my warehouse is barely keeping up? The answer is future-ready warehouse tech from Zebra Technologies. Warehouses can simplify and upgrade all processes, from automated inventory management to hands-free picking, with Zebra's tailored, scalable mobile solutions. They're simple and intuitive. There's never been a better time to upgrade for success with Zebra. How can your warehouse get ahead? The answer's in black and white. Get the answers at zebra.com/theanswer. That's zebra.com/theanswer. Fulfillment demand continues to skyrocket and outpace available labor. To keep up, warehouse operators are turning to flexible fulfillment solutions like 6 River Systems. Utilizing 6 River Systems' award-winning combination of collaborative robots, artificial intelligence, and operational expertise will make your associates and wall-to-wall fulfillment workflow more efficient. No new infrastructure, no change to warehouse layout, easy to deploy and scale, easy to train and retain associates, all at half the cost of traditional automation. Want to take your fulfillment operation to the next level? Go to www.6river.com to learn more. That's www.6river.com to learn more.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. On today's episode, I am going to be joined by Patrick O'Rahilly. He is the founder at FactoryFix, and FactoryFix is concentrating on hiring of industrial workers, specifically on the floor and associates of that nature, and helping you to get great talent and making sure that the talent will stick with you as well. So he's going to tell us a little bit more about FactoryFix, but we're also going to discuss some of the labor issues that we've been seeing in warehousing distribution and industrial kind of roles over the pandemic, and also how companies can do a little better job of recruiting and competing with some of the larger companies as well that tend to suck up a lot of the talent in local areas. So Patrick, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Definitely. Happy to have you on and learn about FactoryFix, and also kind of discuss these issues that I mentioned there, because it's certainly something, I mean, I felt personally as well. But why don't we get a little background on you? So let's hear about, your background and how you kind of came to the idea of FactoryFix, since you are the founder. So what kind of path led you to this company?
Yeah, sure. So FactoryFix really started as a side project when I had my last business, which was called Compass Automation, which was very different type of business. We actually designed and built custom robotic automation machines for factories, manufacturing companies, and warehouses. And really, we wanted to start FactoryFix because our customers were having such a hard time filling roles to support the machines we were installing. So they would always call us, always want us to send someone out to their facilities to, do a service call or do an upgrade or whatever. So FactoryFix was this platform that connected companies that needed to hire for skilled roles to people that were willing to do those roles. And it's morphed over time. And now we're really helping with any type of manufacturing or industrial warehousing role out there.
Okay, interesting. And talk to us, I guess, a little bit about the FactoryFix platform and how it works, and really, why is it better than, some of the other options out there for trying to find talent?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we try to cast the widest reach possible for our customers, so that when they post a job, it goes to people in our network, which we have, over 200,000 people in at this point. Okay. But we also cast it out to other platforms on the internet, the LinkedIns and ZipRecruiters of the world, so that you're getting all of these applicants in a really wide funnel. But we've also gone a step further and built an algorithm that will score each and every applicant, so that our customers are only spending time with the people that are verified to be responsive and a good fit for their particular role.
That's pretty interesting. So now I'm curious, how does the scoring work? Like what kind of things is it looking for? And, what gives me a point? What takes a point away from me,
Yeah, so it's actually very cool. So it's a machine learning automated intelligence algorithm. So it actually takes in over 400 different data points. Okay. Stuff like work history, job hoppiness, familiarity with specific like machines or technologies. And then also it takes into account answers to screener questions that we send to the applicant. And that kind of judges like responsiveness and other answers that they'll submit. But yeah, based on that, we're able to come up with a score. And if that score is above a certain threshold, we'll send that right through to our customer, with the goal being to just streamline the whole hiring process with the labor market the way it is. Speed is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it's really interesting. I think it's a smart idea to have those scores as well. I work in warehousing industry and the day job, and actually, have to hire people and get temps and all that stuff for the warehouse itself. So it can be quite difficult, especially right now, as you mentioned, the current environment and labor market, even, over the past, I guess, year and a half or so, it's been now. It's really been a struggle. And, you talk to somebody and you kind of get a sense of impression, but the scoring thing is great, I think, because you really get a sense of like, okay, this is like the realistic stuff. And I mean, face or not, we're in supply chain. We love data, right? So like, why not base these other decisions on data as well, which I think is the way to go. So it's very interesting. Yeah. And I think, so we mentioned the labor market currently, right? And there's been incredible challenges, right? Trying to hire for industrial type of spaces, and, with the pandemic, everything going on, and it's difficult to hire, but our industry is actually like where the demand is. So we actually in some cases need more people than we needed before the pandemic in the supply chain. So talk to us a little bit about why do you think it's been so hard to get labor for these types of roles? And, what do you think? Is it changing? Is it continuing? What are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a difficult question. I think the biggest thing, certainly for some areas, is the government in a way incentivize people to stay home and not go to work. And I think above and beyond that, I think the whole pandemic just thrust the whole workforce ahead 5 years or 10 years, where people realized that they didn't need to take some of these jobs or didn't want to. And the power dynamics have shifted to where now the labor has all the power. And because of that, companies are desperate. And I think the larger companies can incentivize people more to come and work for them than the smaller companies can. And, warehouses and industrial companies today, they're not just competing against Amazon or other types of companies within their industry. They're competing against like the Chipotles of the world now that are offering. I saw they offer a career path to get to $100K a year within 3 years.
Wow.
So, you really have to be clear about your competitive advantages as an employer and spend as much time there as you would during the sales process trying to find actual customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point. I mean, even, you mentioned the Chipotle thing. I'm in New Jersey here, and there's a local, regionalized, I guess, chain of convenience stores called Wawa. I don't know if you're familiar, but they were at one point offering like a $500 bonus, like to work there. It's like crazy. So, all these different things are happening, and I think it's making the labor market it makes it very competitive, certainly. And then I think it's also, in a sense, I know in my case, the company that I'm working with, as we're trying to get headcount over the past year, I mean, we've certainly in some cases had to kind of, I guess you would say, lower our standards a little bit than when we would normally be, because the pool was so shallow. So, I'm curious, how do you think that these companies can, work against kind of these market things that are going on and really be able to compete and, I guess, not only just attract just workers, but attract like actual skilled and experienced, talented workers that are gonna do a good job and stay with the company for a while?
Yeah, it's a tough question. The way I see it is you really have like three options. Okay. The first is you have to overpay for those great candidates that are in the industry that can come in and hit the ground running. Yeah. You're going to have to pay more than you realize and probably above the market rate. The second option is you go younger and you really invest in training and trying to really ramp up those folks, maybe hire for intelligence and willingness to learn rather than experience. But that takes an investment into, your infrastructure, making sure you're able to actually train someone properly. And the third option is just like lower your standards, unfortunately, and realize that turnover is going to be 100% a year.
Oh yeah.
And in those cases, it doesn't sound ideal, but sometimes companies are stuck with that, at least for part of their workforce. In those cases, you really have to invest in your talent pipeline and have people ready to go, knowing that even though you don't have a job open today, it's probably going to open up tomorrow. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's, all those things are great points. It is really challenging. And, as far as turnover, I mean, it's just crazy right now. I mean, I think the record we had is somebody worked for, I think it was 2.5 hours. And they just disappeared. And it was like, It's crazy. You bring people in, and you wanna invest time in them and stuff, but I mean, I'm seeing firsthand people like they come in and like we talk to them ahead of time, this is the expectation, all this stuff, and yeah, I need a job, I'm willing to work, all this stuff, and then they show up and it's like a day, 2 days, then they just stop showing up. It's really crazy, and it's frustrating too, because you're trying to get a team together, at least like a solid team, and you started putting training time into them and stuff, and then it's just like they're gone. And a lot of the agencies I deal with too, they talk about that as well. It's like they're having the same issue all around. It's just wild. So you mentioned in there about overpaying for talent, and I'm not sure, maybe, I know you guys are like, I think global at this point, right? You mentioned you have teams in Latin America too, right?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You hear a lot about supply chains these days, because if the past couple years have taught us anything, it's that an efficient, well-managed supply chain is absolutely critical to keeping businesses successful and consumers happy. I'm Will Haywood, and I host a podcast called All Business, No Boundaries, where we talk about supply chains, how they work, what happens when they don't, and the innovations that are redefining what's possible in the world of logistics. Join me for insightful interviews with thought leaders and industry experts. We discuss how optimizing supply chains can break down the barriers that are holding businesses back. That's All Business, No Boundaries by DHL Supply Chain. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Internally, we do. Our customers are all U.S. based.
Okay. So I'm curious, what are you, when you're saying like overpaying, do you have any information on like, what the average kind of hourly wage is going for across the country? Because I mean, over here in New Jersey, I mean, I'm seeing 2 years ago, I would not even imagine that we would be paying like some of the wages that we're paying right now in the warehouse.
Yeah, it's tricky, right? It totally depends on location.
Right.
Totally depends on whether or not there's an Amazon facility nearby. But, you can get creative too with signing bonuses or different bonuses if you hit certain like benchmarks or tenure. So I would think about that, because you certainly don't want a mutiny on your hands if someone finds out, that the new hire is making $5 an hour more or something like that. I think employers have to get creative about it. And, when you find a really good person that you want to invest in, it might be a little painful, but if it works out and the deal is structured the right way, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, good point. And you mentioned in there, it depends if you have an Amazon close by. And so I'll say like, here in New Jersey where I'm at, I mean, it's like there's this pocket, and the only thing in the area is like warehouses or 55 plus communities for seniors, right? So it's like, they're not the ones that are going to go work in the warehouse, but other people are coming in to work. But you have these smaller companies that are, have their distribution center in the area, because obviously it's a good location to be in terms of transportation, things like that. But then you have, we're talking Amazon buildings that are 1 million square feet, probably 3-4 within a 20-mile radius. So they're sucking up tons of talent. And you have Wayfair with these big buildings as well. And all these larger companies that, they got the cash to be able to say like, we'll pay you more, this much more. So how do you think these smaller companies can really compete with that? And I think kind of battle the mindset of the associates who are like, I don't care, like, because I know I'll go down the road and Amazon will just hire me if I can walk in the door, right? So how do you think these smaller companies can try and compete and then retain the talent as well?
Yeah, I think the only real way to compete with those large guys is find people that want to be there longer term and aren't there just to make as much money as possible today. So to do that, you have to have like a real clear and reasonable career development path so that you can put that in front of someone and say, yeah, you might be a, general laborer today, but, we have a strict and formal review process. And 2 years from now, we expect you to get this promotion and you'll be making this much more and have, these more responsibilities, and just have a clear line all the way up to like a management position or something like that, and make it transparent, make it clear, and make it realistic so that, people are motivated by that rather than, making a couple of dollars an hour more at Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little wild and I think it's a really good idea to have that clear development plan, because I think, I've certainly seen people, they were working almost a year, longer than a year, and there's some place hiring for 50 cents more an hour, and they're jumping ship. So it's like you really have to change that mindset, and you got to be, I think, you said being clear and transparent about it and being strict about it too is really the way to go, because, certainly you end up, if you're not communicating with them, how are they doing and where are they on that path, then they get frustrated and they're going to go after the money. So it's really interesting. I mean, do you think that, we had obviously these struggles, a little bit, I think, pre-pandemic, but obviously pandemic just 10 times, right? If not 100 times. So, do you think that we're starting to get back into like more of a labor pool being available for these types of roles? How do you think it's looking now?
Not really, to be honest with you. I don't really see light at the end of the tunnel as of yet, at least. It's about as bad as I've ever seen it right now. So like one of the things we're doing is really trying to identify overlooked audiences that we can, educate about different career paths within the industrial world. So going younger, like I mentioned, going to high school seniors that, may not want to go to a 4-year university. Yeah. And I think maybe what little light there is that the university system, the college system in this country is so screwed up. And even more so with the pandemic, unless you're, an engineer or, looking for a more advanced degree, I think there's too many, I hope I'm not offending anyone, but I think there's too many gender studies and communication degrees in the world. Like I think, those folks can go directly into a career and, make money, real money from day one, and 4 years into that career, make even more money and do it all debt free. I don't think there's enough people choosing that path. And I think we need to educate that and make it clear, do a better marketing job of the earning potential. So I think high school seniors is one. I think foreign nationals, I think the whole sponsorship, visa program in the country is kind of like a muddled mess, and a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand the cost behind it, but there's certainly a lot of talent there that's willing to work to stay in the country. And then I think military veterans, a lot of them have skills that are such a natural crossover to the industrial world. Yeah. So I think investing in underlooked audience, doing a better job of marketing to them, that's the only thing I see right now. You really have to play the long game with these labor issues.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great point looking at these different groups, and especially the high school students. I agree 100%, because I think you look at, I think there's kind of this perception, I guess, or of working in the warehouse, you're just throwing boxes around, right? But look at what's happening with the pandemic and what's the focus of industry? It's like supply chain, right? Supply chain is the big deal. Supply chain is why we got this shortage, and supply chain is this and that. So, working in the warehouse that's a start in supply chain. And I know so many people that have just started out working as a temp even, and they work their way up in a couple years to supervisor, manager. I know somebody even that's just started working on the floor and no intention to do anything in warehousing, and they end up being plant manager, general manager. And I mean, when you get to that level, I mean, you're talking about a pretty good career. And to be honest, and I mean, I did go to college, but I will say that, knowing some leaders that I've had in the past in jobs and things at a higher, like executive director level type of people, they never, got their hands dirty in the warehouse or anything. And when you try to explain certain things about them that they're ultimately in charge of and decision makers for, they don't necessarily really understand the practicality of some aspects. I mean, I've certainly seen where, they never really operated in the warehouse, or at least, got out there and tried some things somewhere along the line in their career. And they come out with these ideas and roll these things out, and the people on the floor are just like, what is this? How am I supposed? This doesn't make any sense. It's like, so it's a great experience, I think. And, it's certainly something that, like you said, I think we need to market better to these younger individuals and have them come out and get involved in these types of spaces, whether it's the warehousing, distribution, manufacturing side of things, get involved in that supply chain kind of on the ground floor. And there's so much growth, because I think supply chain is just expanding and expanding, especially with more people embracing e-commerce and all that shift with the pandemic. It's going to drive the demand for that even more, and there needs to be people to support that. So I think really great points on all those things. And before we kind of wrap up here, I'm curious, what is your one big tip, if you had to give like one tip for having successful recruitment of employees? What brings like the most applications in through whatever platform they're using?
Well, FactoryFix, of course, but I would say you need to remove all unnecessary friction from your hiring process, right? If you insist on having a phone screen ahead of like an on-site interview, test some other ways to truly optimize it, because speed is everything in order to fill these positions. So I would look at it like you look at your warehouse. You wouldn't have unnecessary steps and waste in your process back there. So do the same thing in your hiring process.
Great tip. Yeah. I even from personal experience, I could say there was tried to apply for like some jobs, and it was just so frustrating, so many steps, and I was just like, forget it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, very cool. All right. So Patrick, I want to thank you for coming on the show. If people are interested in learning more about FactoryFix and checking you guys out, how can they do that?
Yeah, our website would be great, factoryfix.com, or check me out on LinkedIn or email, patrick@factoryfix.com. But love to talk to anyone interested.
All right, great. And we'll put the links to all of those things on thenewwarehouse.com as well, so listeners can easily find them. So Patrick, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more content from the New Warehouse, check out our new video series called All Hands on LinkedIn. Just search for the New Warehouse on LinkedIn and follow along.